Hi, and welcome to the Bruce channel. I'm Bruce, and it's been a busy week, and I was away, and I was too busy to get a paper or watch the news. So, anything happen I should know about? Yeah, right. How could I have missed that? Betty White turned 95 on Tuesday. My. Sue Ann Nivens, Golden Girl, Cleveland hottie, was born January 17th, 1922. I have sometimes, as you know, shared addresses for folks to whom to send thanks, and generally the rule has been that they've been out of the spotlight. She's never actually been out of it. Nevertheless, I think a card or letter saying, hey, thanks for the great work, thanks for entertaining us would be in order, and if you agree, you can write her Betty White, P.O. Box 491965, California, Los Angeles, California, 90049. Did I miss anything else? Really? You're kidding, right? You want me to believe that? Next thing, you'd have me believe that we've taken a reality show host and... Okay, I see it, but I don't believe it, or believe it, but barely. Greatest show on earth. Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey's Greatest Show on Earth. We'll drop the tent. We'll drop the big top for the final time in May. Poof, 146 years down the drain. Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey's Greatest Show on Earth. That's a long name, isn't it? Actually, it's fairly short. See, P.T. Barnum's first show, the original show, was called P.T. Barnum's Grand Traveling Museum, Menagerie, Caravan, and Hippodrome. And then it became P.T. Barnum's Traveling World's Fair, Great Roman Hippodrome, and Greatest Show on Earth. But then, after merging with James Bailey's circus, it became known as P.T. Barnum's Greatest Show on Earth and the Great London Circus, Sanger's Royal British Menagerie, and the Great International Allied Shows United. Yeah. That didn't last a long time. It finally became, Barnum and Bailey's Greatest Show on Earth. Okay. That's just, that's really hard to believe. It's really, 146 years. You know that long name? Imagine trying to put that in a 10-second jingle. All right, anyway. Old Phineas T. Barnum died in 1906, and the show was then bought by Ringling Brothers, but for another 13 years, until 1919, they were run as two separate shows, and that's when they combined. I remember going to the circus as a kid. I remember seeing the lions and the tigers and the elephants, the aerialists, the clowns. It was ultimately the elephants that did in the circus. Years of protest over the circus use of elephants and their treatment of elephants. They retired the Elephant Act last year. Feld Entertainment, which bought the circus from the actual Ringling Brothers family, they announced, at the time that they announced the closing, the reason for the closing was that it was the elephants. The no elephants caused attendance to drop off more than expected, and it was just too expensive. You can imagine putting on this show with the aerialists and the animals and the clowns and lots of people. And anyway, if they're going to where you are in the next couple of months, you might want to attend if for no other reason than observe a piece of history one last time. They are coming here in February. Anyway, I said a piece of history. That is true. Think of the famous entertainers. Emmett Kelly, remember Emmett Kelly, whose clown character was Weary Willie, and the Flying Wallendas, two of whom still perform with the circus. And when I was a kid, and for many, many generations before I was a kid, the standard plan, following an argument with parents, was going to run away and join the circus. Even just not that many years ago, when I played the Music Man, one of the younger cast members planned, as soon as he graduated from high school, to go to Sarasota, Florida, attend clown school, and he hoped to get chosen. And if he did, I imagine he's taking this news. It's got to be tough news for everybody involved. And then think of the movies with circus themes. There's dozens of them. Big Top Pee-wee, that was what, 1988? In 1928, 60 years earlier, Charlie Chaplin made a film simply called The Circus. 1952, The Greatest Show on Earth, Jimmy Stewart and Charlton Heston. The next year, Man on a Tightrope, that was Frederick March. And then a year later, Anthony Quinn and Richard Basehart were in La Strada. Even Elvis Presley got in the game. Roustabout started Elvis Presley and Barbara Stanwyck. One of my favorites, and it's not all that well known, but from 1959, The Big Circus. It starred Victor Mature. He was the circus owner. Red Buttons was in it as a banker. Rhonda Fleming was in it. And Ozzie and Harriet's oldest son, David, played a trapeze artist, an aerialist. He did not have a stunt double. He actually learned to do all of those things on the trapeze. And, that's just a few of the movies. Oh, speaking of circuses and elephants and movies as iconic as anything is Dumbo. Wee bit of trivia. Disney made Fantasia in 1940, and although it was and is an artistic success, it cost a lot of money to make, and it was a flop. It didn't make any money. It lost money. So to recoup some of those losses, Dumbo was made deliberately on the cheap. It only runs 64 minutes, but you know what? It still works. One other bit of trivia. At the beginning of Dumbo, the stork brings the babies, and the voice of Mr. Stork is that of Sterling Holloway. If you don't recognize his face, you might, but if not, you'd certainly recognize his voice.
Dear me, what's his name?
Jumbo Jr.
Oh, Jumbo Jr., huh? Jumbo Jr.
Okay, speaking of presidents, I wasn't speaking of presidents. Was I? I was speaking of circuses and showmen. Oh, wait, that's right. Anyway, speaking of presidents, our 41st president, George H.W. Bush, was hospitalized this week. He is the oldest living president at 92, and as a member of the greatest generation, he is the last president to have served in World War II. I read his biography last year, and a couple of things stick out about him. Yes, he was born to privilege. His father, Prescott Bush, was a senator from Connecticut, and both his maternal and paternal grandparents, and even great-grandparents, pretty much all of them, came from old money. You can't hold that against him. But a better measure is this. Throughout his school years, his nickname was Have-Half. Have-Half Bush. Why? Because if he had an apple, or a candy bar, or popcorn, or whatever, he'd turn to you and say, Have-Half? Second point, he graduated from the private school Phillips Academy in 1942. That's a half year after Pearl Harbor. And he could have gone to school, but no, he joined the Navy. Not drafted, he joined the Navy immediately, became the Navy's youngest aviator at age 18. Interesting, too, his wife Barbara was hospitalized at the same time this week. She for exhaustion and bronchitis. So for both of them, here's a wish for return to good health. And the news toward the end of the week, indeed, seeing that they're on the mend, they extubated him. Another trivia, they've been married for 72 years. That is the longest presidential marriage ever.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. Or wait, I can let others do it.
welcome back. Remember, you can write to us at the Bruce Channel at yahoo.com, and you can watch all of our previous shows at either our Facebook page or at tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel. All right, so the mighty shall be made weak, and the meek shall inherit the earth, and the four shall become two. I may have mixed my metaphors a little bit, but yes, this weekend indeed, the four shall become two. That is, the Pittsburgh Steelers face the New England Patriots for the right to represent the AFC, and Atlanta goes against Green Bay for the right to carry the banner for the NFC. And this is as good as it ever gets. The four have all had solid seasons. The four were all division champs. Solid records, no wild card teams here, no pretenders like, I say this with respect, but Houston, which did win its division, but that was a very weak AFC South. You could also make a case for all four teams. You could argue any of them to become the Super Bowl champion in 2 weeks. Oh, and 3 of the 4 teams are being quarterbacked by future first year of eligibility Hall of Famers. Green Bay has been to the dance before the last couple of years. They didn't quite get there for one reason or another. 2 years ago, an absolutely superb Seahawks defense combined with an Aaron Rodgers leg or foot injury, so they didn't make it then, or they might have been the one to face the Patriots in Super Bowl 49. And although the Packers aren't 100% healthy, they're close to healthy. And even Aaron Rodgers' favorite receiver, Jordy Nelson, may come back from his sore ribs. Now, Atlanta has looked really, really good, almost unstoppable. Their offense has averaged 34 points a game? And because they had one of the 2 best records, they started the playoffs with a bye week. But even so, I'm picking Green Bay. I won't be shocked if I'm wrong, but a few reasons lead to that. David Blaine, David Copperfield, 2 magicians of note. They haven't got any more magic than Aaron Rodgers has this postseason. He's just been magical, and sometimes you need magic more than speed or power. The Cavs in June had that magic. The Indians had some magic too, a little bad juju in September, and they lost half the pitching staff, but you can't argue against the magic that the Cubs had either. Aaron Rodgers has that kind of magic going, so there is that. Not to mention the fact that Atlanta's defense has not been overpowering. They've won a lot, but oftentimes they needed those 34 points or so. Aaron Rodgers can pick apart a good defense against one that's average. Oh, and it's also true that the team with the playoff experience does better than the team whose players haven't got that experience. And it's been a couple of years since Atlanta has been in the playoffs. So even though the Falcons have looked unstoppable, and even though they're playing at home, I think the Packers win. Oh, speaking of the Falcons being at home, they're playing the last game ever played in the Georgia Dome. What? It only opened in 1992, and it cost $214 million. Taxpayers, $214 million, by the way. But I digress. All right, Pittsburgh versus New England. Ben Roethlisberger for the Steelers is a cinch Hall of Famer, and he goes against Tom Brady, cinch Hall of Famer, except Brady may be the best ever. And he's 39. You wonder how long can he keep doing it? Well, he just had his best season. And it's clear, or at least it's said, that he's PO'd. Remember, a couple of years ago at this time, the controversy was over Deflategate. So after some court battles, the league did suspend him for 4 games, but it took until this year to do it. So it's said that he wants to get his revenge. And they are playing at home. Before the first game in September, I thought that the Pats would win the Super Bowl. I see no real reason to change my mind. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell can sometimes get their own magic. So if the Steelers can bring some heat on Tom Brady, yeah, with the other game, the same as the other game, I am picking New England, but I will not be surprised if my pick is wrong. It just doesn't get better. Speaking of sports, there is a thing that is just way cool. When I play golf, depending on if it's 9 or 18 holes, I'll often walk rather than take a cart. Now, carts are nice, They give you shade, and you can put a cooler in the back with some brewskis in it. But if you hit it left and your playing partner hits it to the right, it's extra time. you go to one ball and then you drive over the other side, or you back and oftentimes it's back and forth. But that was before Back to the Future meets golf. Not quite a hoverboard, but almost. And look at this. Not only does it look like fun, but it certainly will make play go faster. Each player hovers on over to their own ball, no crisscrossing. Got to make maybe play in 3 hours, depending on, what's in front. All right, finally. So the holidays are over. We get into the new year. The TV shows return, and wham, just like that, it's hard to stay current. The Blacklist returned. I don't love the Blacklist, but I admit it's awfully hard to turn away from. I imagine their writer's room and how they weave a story with all the different twists and turns, and the arcs come together in a cohesive way. Not a probable way, but they do find cohesion, and I marvel at how they do that on a storyboard. Oh, and after a couple of years, Sherlock has returned on Masterpiece, and I almost missed the notice. Oh, and talking of writers, Blacklist writers have got nothing on Sherlock's. Except, Sherlock's writers get 3 years to write 3 episodes. And Mercy Street returns to PBS. Mercy Street? Football? Yay for DVRs. Finally, this. Although it should come as no surprise, the 2 agencies of the government whose job it is to monitor such things, NOAA and NASA, have told us that yes, 2016 is now officially the warmest year in recorded history, eclipsing the previous warmest year, the year before 2015. The European equivalent agency had told us the same thing about a week and a half ago. By the way, the record 2015 broke was the year before, 2014. So, there are those who believe climate change is a hoax, and I've said this before. Climate deniers, when asked, typically say, well, I'm not a scientist, but that answer is so self-damning because that's who it is, the scientists who tell us that it's man-caused global warming. All right, I'm not a scientist either, but here's the thing. 2016 marked the 40th consecutive year that it was warmer than average. That's a long straight line, Satan sees Natasha. And I hope to see you 7 days hence. In the meantime, I hope that your upcoming week is the best one you've ever had.